Hello and welcome to another episode of Just Talking About Films podcast. My name is Ian Sargentson.
And my name's Luke Taylor, and it's great to be with you to just hang out and talk about films. And we're excited today to be joined by a friend of both of ours, Ian Cornforth. I said that very formally there. It's good to have you with us, Ian. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. You?
And we've known Ian for a great many years now, and we've disagreed with Ian about a great many movies. So looking forward to this.
It's basically because I'm not a film snob like you two. I like any old rubbish and take it as it comes.
Well, I don't know if I'm a film snob, but I don't like any old rubbish. But yeah, I think Luke and I created this podcast to be anti-film snobs.
Yeah, to talk to people, you know, who weren't into the whole film snob thing. So it's amazing it took us this long to get you on, Ian.
Yep, that's me. Anything rubbish.
Well, when we have a guest, we're going to talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife, because all three of us really wanted to discuss it together. But before we do that, whenever we have a guest on, we do a catch up of what they've seen recently, and then we've got a whole bunch of questions for them as well. We haven't got any extra films to talk about between me and Ian because we've just done our catch up on the last episode. So, Ian, I'm going to have to call you Corny. Is that okay?
Yeah, I haven't been called that for a long time, but
Ian C. And what have you been watching this week?
This week I'm probably late to the show with you lot. I'm not a regular cinema goer like you two, so but I've been traveling a bit, so I've been watching a few bits and pieces. I watched The Tomorrow War last week when I was traveling on the train.
What do you think?
I quite liked it. Again, it's played to my better part. I thought it was a little bit too long at the end. I thought it could have wrapped it up a bit quicker, but I quite liked it. I quite liked the sort of premise of it. I quite liked how it was done. The little twists in it I quite liked.
I think when Luke and I discussed it, we were saying that it had a bit of a rough time, but we liked it. We thought it was about 20 minutes too long, but overall enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah, I thought Chris Pratt was pretty good in it. I thought it was unfair, some of the criticism that I've heard about him, sort of just because he does a bit of humour and things. I thought it was played pretty well. I quite like the film overall.
It's a film that if it came out in the 90s, it would have just ruled.
Yeah,
you know?
It did have that Independence Day kind of thing going on, which isn't a bad thing in my book. Which other things have we watched recently? We've been working our way through Steven Spielberg films with the kids. So some of them we've not watched any for a few weeks, but we've sort of watched Jaws, E.T., Close Encounters of the Third Kind was the disappointing one out of them. I don't really remember watching that first time round, and I was quite disappointed with that one.
It's a strange film, that one, yeah.
Yeah, it's not one that I'd rush back to. But the other ones are sort of the Spielberg films you can watch with kids. I think are pretty much films that I could watch over and over again. I think it was you guys you'd been talking about Jaws one week, and I thought, yeah, that's a good idea. And with the kids of different ages, you need a bit of a theme when you're selecting films, because otherwise you spend about 4 hours deciding what film to watch that you all suit. So if you're working your way through Spielberg films, it's a lot easier to pick one from.
And what did the girls think of it?
The girls kind of like Jaws, but the younger one more than the older one. We've got a 15-year-old daughter who's a bit harder to please, as you both know.
Did they jump at the appropriate moments?
Yeah. But probably Claire, my wife, probably jumped more at most of the movie. But no, the kids kind of enjoyed them. E.T., I think it was the first time Evelyn remembered watching E.T. I think we've probably watched it before, but really liked that one. So that's what we've been doing, sort of working our way through them. We watched the...
Are you doing them in a particular order?
No, just as a fancy, really. We watched we worked our way through the Indiana Jones movies, but they're refusing to watch Grace, my older daughter's refusing to watch the fourth instalment.
Quite right too.
Quite right too. I've got it downloaded on Amazon Prime, so I might watch it on a train one time. And
you can't get that time back.
I know, but I'm going sort of preparing for as you do. Hoping preparing for a new one coming out. I'll probably have to watch them again close at the time. But as a new movie,
I really want to watch that I haven't been able to find But did you guys ever watch the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles?
Yeah.
I kind of remember it, but
I think I loved those when they were first out, and I can't find them anywhere. But I've got, you just kind of want to watch them.
That's probably due a reboot.
Is that what it was called?
I think it was the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. I think there was a whole. They did a whole bunch. They did a few when he was a kid, and then they did some when he was a teenager. With the teenage, I didn't like the ones where he was a kid, but the ones where he was a teenager, I thought were great. Anyway,
I can't remember. And then lastly, we watched the 2 Ghostbusters films leading up to the new one coming out. So
when you say the 2,
there is only 2 previous Ghostbusters films. There's Ghostbusters 1, the 84 one, then there's Ghostbusters 2, and then there's been no other Ghostbusters films since then. Not that I recall, anyway.
Well, we'll get into Ghostbusters when we get to Ghostbusters. I think because when we're talking Afterlife, we should talk the other Ghostbusters films as well.
At the same time.
Yeah, we'll do all of them because I think what Ghostbusters means to us is a large part of certainly why I liked Afterlife anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So we have a whole bunch of questions for you, Ian, that we ask everyone who comes on, and you are no exception. What is one of or your very favourite film?
Well, I've been in anticipation of coming on this. I've been making a list for quite a while, and I've got a long list. And obviously, Ghostbusters is in there, but it's probably not my go-to film.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if I was backed into a corner, I've got about 10 to 12 on my list.
I'm going to guess in my head. Let me write it down what I think it is so I can see if I'm right.
I'm purposely going to choose a different one now.
Yeah, but I won't tell you.
Have you wrote it down?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Watership Down. No, it's not really. Although that is a good film.
Bright Eye.
It's Back to the Future.
Yeah, BTT.
Nice. Well
if I was going to sit down and watch a film tonight,
mm-hmm.
and I could pick from anything, I would probably sit and watch Back to the Future, or a Star Wars movie, or sort of Star Trek movie, if depending what kind of mood I was in. But if Saturday afternoon there's a film on the TV and Back to the Future was on, and it had been on the week before, I'd still sit and watch it again. I can just watch it over and over and over again.
It's a good film. It's a really good film.
All 3 of them, but particularly number 1, because the other ones, you need number 1 for the other ones. Following up from your Home Alone 1/2, you discussion, you need number 1 for number 2 to exist, so number 1 therefore is better.
Yeah, I mean, I think my preferences are the Back to the Future films that are in order. I think it's 1, 2, 3 for me.
Yeah.
I don't 1, 3, 2.
And I see why, Luke. I see why, but because slightly it possibly is a slightly better film, but I'd always watch them in order, and I'd always say 1, 2, 3.
3 was a great idea that just wasn't executed very well.
Yeah. I think I've warmed to 2 over the years more. When they first came out, I was less keen on 2, but I've warmed to it because it certainly aims for the stars, that film, doesn't it? It goes big.
It's good, but then some other ones are all of the same ilk, sort of the same sort of time period, so you can sort of get. We're all obviously the same age.
You're an 80s ambulance guy.
Yeah, Top Gun, Karate Kid, anything like that sort of. And then sort of other ones I had on were sort of which I remember fondly for different reasons. Sort of The Great Outdoors has always been a favourite of mine, which is a terrible film.
Is that the Dan Aykroyd?
It is. It's a terrible film, but my dad liked it. And you know where you like films for different reasons?
Yeah.
And it was one that I would watch with my dad. So as you get older, you kind of think that kind of, you forget about how bad the film is and you realise the reason why you watched the film. If you know
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Does that sound odd?
No. Films are attached to a lot of stuff. So is it Dan Aykroyd and John Candy? Is it?
It's not John. Yeah, it's John Candy. Yeah. Where they go to where the families go to the shack in the woods.
Yeah, they go to cabin and they go fishing and whatever.
Yeah.
I think my dad disapproved of it, so I never saw it.
Princess Bride, another one that's one. Jurassic Park, I quite like, and I would go back to. So I've got quite a few things, but Back to the Future is the one that goes to the top of the list all the time.
That's your go-to film. Okay, this might be the same answer then, but which film caused you to fall in love with films? If you were to set a date where you were kind of like, okay, that's when I started really enjoying films, which film would it be?
Again, got a lot of thought into this one. I think it's probably Star Trek movies.
Star Trek?
Yeah. And
you've misspoken. You meant Wars, didn't you?
I did say Star Wars at first, but no, Star Trek. You know I like Star Trek. I'm not a Trekkie, but I don't point years and go to conventions, but I'm quite a Star Trekkie. I'm working my way through the original, not through the original series, through the Next Generation again at the moment. So, but I remember, because I remember going to see Ghostbusters at the cinema and loving it, but I remember watching the Star Trek movies on a Saturday afternoon, and it was probably, thinking back, trying to work out which one it was probably Wrath of Khan, and thinking, I absolutely love this. This is for me the sort of Star Trek and getting immersed in that universe, and then realizing that there was more of them that you could get into, and there was, but again, it was at that time probably where it was on TV. And you couldn't easily then go and find out the other ones. And I was excited to go and find the next one. And then at that time, it seemed that new ones came out regular as well. Like every few years, a new one would come out. And it was really that was the kind of thing that I think, looking back, again, it could be a lot of things.
I couldn't handle Wrath of Khan when I was a kid.
There was other memories from films like I remember watching Westworld late at night. Like,
me too.
Yeah, and it seemed to be on every week, didn't it? But,
you feel like a grown-up watching Westworld.
Yeah, you felt a little bit like naughty. It wasn't like you shouldn't be watching it kind of thing, but not in a bad way. But and that always sticks in my mind. Sort of staying up late to watch Westworld and still now, because I'd still quite happily sit and watch Westworld. And I'm talking about the original movie, not the mini-series thing that was on.
Not the self-indulgent mini-series.
Yeah, I don't think we even got to the end. I don't even think we got to the end of that.
No, I did like I do with Lost. I just gave up. It just disappeared up its own back passage.
Yeah, and we've done that with a few of them kind of series. But Westworld, the original Westworld movie, was the thing. And another one that I've mentioned a few times on your sort of like on your Twitter feed in that same sort of thing is one that no one else has ever seemed to have heard of or watched, which is Capricorn 1, and that was that same sort of, it was on late at night, and it was a space movie with O.J. Simpson in it, where they're supposed to go to the moon. Oh, the Mars it is, not moon, and it's abandoned, and they end up faking it and filming it in a warehouse in Arizona, and it all sort of unfolds from there. And again, I watched that again recently, and I thought, do you know when I watched that one again, when you were talking about films that could be remade? And I watched it and thought, it doesn't need remaking. It's good as it is. I quite like it. So and you can watch that. You can stream that for free on YouTube for some reason. So if you ever want to watch some kind of early 80s dodgy space movie, it's well worth watching.
There are times when I think, I tell you what, I want to watch some dodgy 80s space movie
with OJ Simpson and the guy. Do you know the guy who was Ross's dad in Friends?
Yeah.
He was in it, and James Brolin.
Oh. James Brolin.
So
he started off as a good actor and then ended up being the poor man Steve Martin.
Is that the line from The Simpsons, if you've ever heard one? Yeah. So that's another one. So that kind of film where you sort of stayed up late and you're sort of watching movies, because we didn't really go to cinema or anything when we were kids, so sort of not very much anyway. Not unless somebody else took us. So it was that kind of thing that would have been on TV.
Good stuff.
Okay, so there is another question about cinema that actually I want to come back to, because I think we're going to end on that one. But what film do you think deserves more credit? You know, a one that you seem to like and everybody else hates, or you just think people haven't fully learned to appreciate this film?
I think I might know this one as well.
Oh, hold on. Go on, write it down.
Might be wrong, but...
You got it? You got it written down?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
just to wind you up, The Greatest Showman, but no. Is that what you wrote down?
No, I didn't write that down.
No, again, thinking of this kind of stuff, and my problem is I don't really read reviews or take much notice of what other people say about movies, so it's difficult to know what's underrated and what isn't. Mm-hmm. Do you know, I might say a movie and everyone say, oh, that was fantastic. But Starship Troopers is not really, because it's not supposed to be, is it? It's not supposed to be like highly rated, but I quite... Lion, I quite like Lion, but I don't know how well that was received elsewhere.
Lion. I actually think Lion's a really good film.
Exactly.
I didn't have that.
But I don't know. So
I have That Thing You Do by Tom Hanks.
That Thing You Do, I've got that somewhere on my list.
I have that and Rock of Ages.
Oh yeah, Rock of Ages. Yeah, no, that's a good half-hour film. It's not really underrated, is it? It's just it's not a brilliant film, but it's easy to watch. Something like Sleepers
is amazing.
Yeah. So again, I don't know. One I watched recently, and it links into Ghostbusters a little bit, is Evolution. And I always think I love Evolution, and it's probably not one that gets very high ratings really. So let's say Evolution, which is another
Evolution.
Which is.
What did you write down, Ian?
I wrote That Thing You Do.
Yeah, that Thing You Do. I don't think it's underrated. It's not rated either way.
Nobody will rate it at all, did they? I never hear anybody mention it.
No, it's actually kind of fun.
We watched it a couple of weeks ago. That was one of the ones I should have said we watched recently.
Yeah.
I've got it on
DVD. I know I've seen it, and I bought the soundtrack.
Have you seen Green Day doing a cover version of the song?
No.
It's worth YouTubing that. Yeah, sorry, we moved into a music one, but That Thing You Do, yeah. Again, I'm not sure if it was highly rated at the time again, or was it just me and you that watched it?
Yeah, but it's like some films were highly rated. Like I said, when I into this, I said Billy Elliot. Now I think Billy Elliot was highly rated, but in conversations now, people don't mention it as one of a great film or something. So I think Lion fits into that. Yeah.
I
was in floods of tears at the end of Lion.
Yeah, it was one of the best films we've watched in recently.
The first half of it,
years ago.
The first half of it, the acting is outstanding.
Yeah,
by that young lad.
And once you understand it, I'm not giving spoilers away. Once you understand why he can't understand because he can't understand, and that's why he's not talking, and that's why he can't understand what's going on because he's gone so far away from home that he can't understand the language. So yeah, I thought that was one of my ones that came to mind anyway. But then again, he could have won Oscars and all sorts for all I know. I just don't know. I don't know what's rated and what isn't.
Okay, so we go to the flip side of that. Again, you don't know what everybody else's opinion is, but a film that came out and it was so hyped and everybody seemed to think it was great, and you're just like, I don't get it.
I'll probably upset both of you here.
Uh-oh.
Because I don't get Die Hard movies. I don't understand the hype over Die Hard movies.
Are you including the first one in that?
All of them, really. It's all right, but I don't get why everyone raves on about it. I'm not talking about the whole, is it a Christmas film, is it not a Christmas film thing, but I don't get the hype.
You don't get it?
But I probably haven't watched them for years and years because I don't think I was really that sort of hyped about it at the time. Do you know, that sort of at the time everyone raved about how good it was.
Well,
and the other one, any James Bond movie.
I don't know what to say about
that. Well, sorry. I'm okay with you on the James Bond movies, but Die Hard. I mean, to be fair, there's only 2 good Die Hard movies.
Yeah, maybe I should watch them again.
That's 1 and 3.
Maybe I should watch Die Hard 1, and I've not said this to be.
When's the last time you saw it?
Yeah, probably years and years ago. Probably.
Oh, you've got to redo it. You've got to try it again.
Maybe, but and it's not because you talked about Die Hard recently and about that, but I know it's one of Ian's favourite films, and it's just never done it for me really. So I might be wrong.
Wow.
I might be wrong.
No, I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion.
But just
you are wrong, but you're entitled to your opinion.
I don't know if I can even ask the next question now. What is this? Because I think you've just answered it. What is your most controversial film opinion?
You want one that I've made up to annoy you two, or a real one?
What's the one you've made up to annoy us?
No, I probably haven't made him up, but I can take or leave comic book movies, Marvel and things like that.
That's fair enough.
I can kind of I can watch a Spider-Man movie, but I wouldn't really go to the cinema to watch one. Or if I was stuck, sometimes when I'm working away from home and I'm stuck away for a couple
far away from home,
go and find a cinema and there's the only things on a Marvel movie, I'll go and watch it. But I'm not.
I don't think that's a controversial opinion. Martin Scorsese would agree with you.
No, I'm the same.
You know,
I like them as standalone films, but I'm not a fanboy.
You know my stock answer to this one is that all black and white movies are rubbish.
And you are wrong. You are wrong.
But the two things that people come back to you on this when you say all black and white movies are wrong, and like Ian's wrote that down. You can write down that people come back and say Schindler's List.
Yeah,
which is not the answer. It's not the answer because it's intentionally black and white, isn't it? I don't mind Schindler's List. In fact, it's a great film but it's meant to be black and white, isn't it? And the other one, It's a Wonderful Life. And to be quite honest, I've never watched it.
I can't believe you've still never watched it. It is brilliant.
I'm never going to watch it. You get to a certain point and you haven't watched a movie. You're never going to watch it, are you?
You've got, man.
Not that, this one. It won't bother you too.
There's a colorized version just for you.
Claire's favourite movie is Dirty Dancing. Now I've got so far down the line, never watched it, even though she's watched it hundreds of times in the house. I'm never going to watch it now because I've got to that point where I've just refused for long enough.
It's the stubbornness. That's what
is it a matter of principle now? Because you're missing out on some good films.
Maybe. But
I did it with a lot of films. I wouldn't watch anything old because it did my head in. And people would go, "You've got to watch these old classics." So then I was like, right, never interested. But then I started watching them, and I've discovered films that I never thought I would ever like. And
hang on, something you've never seen King Kong?
The original one?
Yeah.
Oh, obviously, I don't know if it was probably not. No, unless it was on TV on a Saturday when I was a kid or Sunday. Was Jason and the Argonauts colour or black and white? It was colour,
I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were colour. Those Sinbad, those things, they were colour, weren't they? Yeah, so that was just my stock answer to wind people up. I don't really believe it, but probably my one, which thing that I think the top one out of all these bits that I wrote down was, I don't mind all the Star Wars movies. Do you know, even the ones people get really angry about?
Yeah,
I kind of like watching all of them. I'll sit and watch them all. I think there's ones I like more than others, but I really don't get why people hate them. The middle three chronological ones. I don't know why. I don't get why people hate them so much. There was a few dodgy characters in them, but I kind of quite like them.
You mean episodes 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah. Yeah, the first three in the story, but the three that were released in the middle.
Even the first one. The first one's hard to sit through now.
No, I can still sit and watch it. And that's what I don't get. I don't get why people hate it so much.
I just find it. I kind of feel like I'm cringing while I'm watching it.
Well, it's part of the
sorry for everybody involved
story,
in it.
though, isn't it? It's part of the story, and to enjoy the whole story. Why would
no?
For me, they're just too far removed from the others.
They're just the tone and everything's so strange on them.
I think I'm the only person who thinks that. Maybe me and George Lucas. I don't know, but
he's the only person who likes them.
but I don't mind. I honestly don't mind them. I quite happily sit and watch them and.
I hate Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's a couple of dodgy characters
on
in
screen.
There's a couple of dodgy characters, but you probably. I think I don't.
Everything just feels
movies
so
as much
staged and unreal, and like there's no life in it. And
yeah, exactly. That's where I'm getting to about not being a film snob. I kind of don't dissect films too much. I kind of just take them for what they are.
It's not dissecting. It's just watching, going, why does everybody look like they're asleep?
Yeah, I think we're a few different levels here. So I'll watch. We talked about this at the beginning. What you watch films for? So it's just entertainment. If it's a story, if it's emotive stuff. Like Luke focuses more on the technical aspects than me. I'll focus on the entertainment and how it makes me feel. I just like the story. Whereas with the first three Star Wars, I didn't hate them. There was just aspects of it that, for me, were trying to appeal just to more of a widespread audience that kind of diluted the context of the originals for me.
Yeah.
So you got Darth Vader and Jar Jar Binks effectively in the same story. It's like, I'm not having that.
But when people start looking into things too much and sort of, that can't have happened, this can't have happened, you think they're living in space and talking to little teddy bears and shooting lasers and stuff. It's just take it for what it is.
So just going back to the black and white thing. Have you never seen Psycho?
I'm not a big horror fan, to be honest. I'm not squeamish or anything, but I wouldn't really go out my way to watch a horror movie.
Wow.
I'm not like, I could sit and watch it. It's not something I would watch.
Luke's Googling the best black and white films.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to do that now. Hold on.
So You asked for my most controversial. I don't know if it's controversial, but I do. Most people I talk to don't really like those three Star Wars films.
No, I get that.
I kind of like them.
Another
one I wrote down was if it won an Oscar, I probably won't like it. I know that's more modern. That's more.
Yeah, recently the Oscars. I take very little notice of the Oscars now. I think they're just trying too hard to I don't know, to not offend people.
I quite like it on Netflix and Amazon Prime. They've made a handy thing where you can Oscar winners. You can discount all of those films quite easily. It makes picking a movie a lot easier.
Casablanca. Have you never seen Casablanca?
Obviously, you know the famous lines from it.
Anyway, right, okay. Moving on to the next question.
Sorry, we're moving too quickly here, aren't we?
No, we're doing.
Have you never seen Angels with Dirty Faces?
Nope. I didn't say I haven't seen black and white films. I just said they're all rubbish.
Angels with Dirty Faces.
I didn't say I'd never seen any, but it doesn't mean to say they're all rubbish. Is what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's a good job you've got a massive wide audience on Twitter because I'd get some hate tonight, wouldn't I?
Oh, from the purists, yeah.
You're from the purists, yeah. Who is this man who likes Star Wars, Star Trek, and Sandra Bullock movies?
We haven't even gone there, have we? Right, okay. So we're going to go pivot back to an earlier question. What's the first film you remember seeing at the cinema?
I remember it really clearly, and it's going to, like you say, it links in because as I remember going to see Ghostbusters at the Billingham Forum, which isn't really a cinema, it's a theatre. But when we were kids, I don't think they do it now, but when we were kids, they would occasionally show movies, and they weren't movies that had been out that were brand new. I think they must have got them cheap and they were able to show them maybe 6 months, a year. I have no idea how long afterwards. But if you think 84, I would have been 7, so it could have been a couple of years after it had actually been out. But I remember the hype of going to see it because I knew snippets of what happened because obviously people had been to see it and the bit about the library and the lady in the library and things like that. I knew that things were going to happen. And I remember it really clearly. And one thing when I was listening to an earlier podcast when you were talking about, and obviously me and Ian grew up in the same town. And the boxes of fruit pastels, I remember boxes of fruit pastels as clear as day. And so I remember that almost as much as the film.
Yeah.
But from that moment, Ghostbusters has been very special to me, and so much so when we watched Ghostbusters 2 the other night, I thought, why have I not watched this for so long? Ghostbusters 2. I've watched Ghostbusters 1 more times than I care to remember, and I wondered whether I'd sort of the one that we don't speak of from 2016. I wondered whether I'd sort of put Ghostbusters 2 into that bracket, but Ghostbusters 2 was really good. When we watched it, it was a lot better than I remember.
I found that I watched it recently and was like, this is a better film than I remember it being.
Yeah, I'd kind of hadn't watched Ghostbusters 2 for ages, and let's say I wonder whether I'd sort of filed it away as that rubbish sequel kind of thing. But as a film in its own right, it was pretty good.
I can't remember the last time I watched it, but I need to revisit it. I need to revisit the 2016 one as well, because I remember I hated it. But a few people I've seen this week saying it wasn't as bad as they remembered. So
no, I rewatched it recently, and it was worse than I remembered.
All right. Well, I've got to give it a go.
Yeah,
no, I won't give it a go.
Yeah. So talking Ghostbusters, I mean, we're going to move into Ghostbusters Afterlife, but I think we've heard from Ian there. His first experience with Ghostbusters was his first cinema experience. It was the same for me. It was the first time I'd ever been to cinema was to see Ghostbusters. And I remember that excitement. I had the picture book and I remember each bit, and the picture book had that library ghost, it goes like that.
That might be what I'm talking about. I might have seen the book or something because I knew bits of information about the film. I knew about Slimer. I knew about the Marshmallow Man. I knew about the important bits in the film, but I wouldn't know how they'd been.
But you'd not strung them together in your head. No. And that was the same with I knew them, but I hadn't strung them together. I just remember being terrified at the start, going, "This is going to be too scary for me, isn't it? I'm not going to be able to cope. I'm not going to be able to cope." And then when the library ghost went and everybody in the cinema laughed, I was like, okay, I get it. And I remember everything so clearly about that. I even remember the smell of the cinema. It was damp, but it was I'll always remember that. It was my first cinema experience. When did you first see Ghostbusters, Ian?
I think I didn't watch it at the cinema. I think when I've watched it would be, we used to have this fella that would come round once a week and open a boot of his car, and he had loads of VHS videos. And my parents would get 3 films or something, and we were allowed 1. The kids' films were 50p for a week, and you get it for a week, or 2 sometimes, depending on we've been good, or I'd get 2, my sister would get 1. So we'd choose together. And I remember there was certain films that I'd get, and if I liked them, I'd just get them the next week as well. I'd just keep watching because I'd watch them 2 or 3 times. And I remember Ghostbusters being one of those films that, one of the ones that I'd heard about. The sticker album was out and all these things. But I've never seen it because we didn't go to the cinema a lot either. Not for big releases, certainly. I think I started going to the cinema regularly when I could pay for myself. And then I'll have just watched it over and over again. And the same, like a lot of them, RoboCop was the same, Rambo was the same. Because my parents really didn't seem to care as long as I was entertained. So, no, I was 10 or 11, was getting RoboCop at 18 and Rambo. But yeah, Ghostbusters was one of the ones. Ghostbusters and Karate Kid, I think, were the ones that I got a lot when I was that 10 or 11 or whatever it was.
I remember I had Ghostbusters on VHS, recorded off ITV.
Yeah.
And the sanitized it, you know, all the swear words were cut out and replaced right throughout the film. And even when I watch it now, I hear the replacement in my head. I remember the bits where my tracking went on my VHS, you know, because I've watched it so many times. Like, yeah. And I even remember those bits. Like, I expect my streaming version now to start rolling at a certain point because it's just so imprinted in me.
Do you think because they were sanitized like that, do you think that's why when you watch them now, you think you see, I know it's because you see them through different eyes now, and some of the characters in some of the Ghostbusters were left a bit to be desired morally, didn't they? And you didn't really get that when you were a kid, did you? Do you think partly because it'd been sanitized a little bit? Or I
don't know. The 80s appear to be a very, very different time. I mean, looking at it now, when you watch Pete Venkman, and you're like, man, this guy needs looking up.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, he is a predator.
You didn't see that as a kid. He was kind of a cheeky chappy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But he was well dodgy, wasn't he?
The way he just that whole bit at the start with the student.
Yeah, he was hitting on the student, and
he should have been fired. Well, he was, but he should have been fired a long time before.
But I wonder whether that's because they were sanitized. And sometimes you watching them with kids. And you think, did they really use that language when we were...
But it's funny, isn't it? The sanitized version I had, like at the beginning, you know, where he's electrocuting them both. And he goes, I don't know, what's this experiment about anyway? With the way examining, you know, the negative reinforcement on psychic ability. He goes, the effect, I'll tell you what the effect is, it's me off.
Yeah.
And the version I had goes, I'll tell you what the effect is, then maybe my theory is correct. And I never understood until I got the DVD what on earth that line meant.
Yeah. Because I watch a lot of film now and think, was it really? It's like swearing in these when we were kids. I'm sure I wouldn't have been allowed to watch.
Oh, yeah. I think you just, because as a kid, you're not interested in that bit, so you filter it out. Yeah. But then there's some others that you just, like, it was always there, and you go, what, like Big? I watched Big a few years ago, and I was like, this is horrendous.
Yeah, if you're talking about people with about the moral code, Big's not a great one, is it?
No.
It's not one for a remake. I don't know. They did try and make it, didn't they? They did like a girly version, didn't they, a few years ago? I think. Have I made that up?
But yeah. So I think for all of us, Ghostbusters is a film we grew up with.
You did.
You know, it's always been there. Always been one of my favorites. Always been on heavy rotation. I think there's hardly a year gone by I've not seen it.
Yeah, me too.
Ghostbusters 2, I remember being so hyped for Ghostbusters 2 because I was at an age where I was allowed to go see it. And I remember being a little disappointed by it at the time. But in hindsight, it's pretty good. The museum guy is brilliant.
He's probably nuts.
It's such a good performance.
No, it is. And I was really surprised when I watched it the other night because I thought I've got to watch it. Got to watch number 1, number 2 to lead up to it because that's what you do, isn't it? When a new version of a film comes out, you watch the ones leading up, and then you know what's going on. probably, I'm not sure if you needed to watch Ghostbusters Afterlife, but I was really surprised how good Ghostbusters 2 was and how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it's a decent film. It's, it doesn't capture the magic of the first one. There's something about the first one. It's almost accidentally great.
You hadn't seen anything like that before, had you? I think that was the thing.
No, and I don't think anyone who made it's been able to achieve anything like it since.
No.
So it's just that moment where everything just came together and made a great film.
Yeah, I mean, the three of them, I count the three original Ghostbusters when I say the three. The characters were that little bit odd bod and a little bit nerdy, weren't there? And it wasn't what you were used to seeing. You were used to seeing movie stars who were sort of clean cut and the best looking people, but watching Ghostbusters, everything was sort of played. And I think maybe because we might fit in, some of us might fit into that bracket, you kind of more relatable to you. They were odd.
They were like working men. They were just normal people, and
that nerdiness about them.
Yeah,
that kind of worked.
So that leads us to. Do we cover the 2016 one? I guess none of us are really a fan of that one.
No, but you can talk about it if you want. It's not.
No, I think we'll skip over that.
We talked about it in the last episode. Like.
It's not. It's more the principle, and again, it's something you've talked about in the past. It's remakes, isn't it? I'm quite happy for a reboot. I quite like what they're not film, but I quite like what they've done with Cobra Kai in terms of a reboot. They haven't ruined or gone and rehashed Karate Kid like they've tried to in the past with the Will Smith's boy.
I tried watching that recently. I couldn't get into it at all.
No, so that kind of thing doesn't really work. But the spin-off or a reimagining kind of like this, like in the future, and the same as what they did with Cobra Kai. I quite like that, and it works. But the just to remake a film that's brilliant. What would you think about if they remade Back to the Future now?
No.
It wouldn't work, would it?
No, it can't be done.
It wouldn't work.
Although weirdly, if Marty McFly was to go back in time now, he'd be going to the 90s.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in.
It is, but if they said tomorrow we're going to remake Back to the Future, I would be not into that at all. The same as your Home Alone thing. But if they were going to do a spin-off from thing, and it was going to be Marty's kids, or it was going to be the Doc's kids, or something like that, or somebody found the DeLorean tucked away somewhere and went on something, I'd be all over that. Because it's good, but when it's a remake of something, I just don't. And it's a remake of something you love so much, it's on a hiding to nothing, isn't it? Because it's not going to replace that magic of why you love the film.
Yeah, I mean,
Ghostbusters isn't perfect, is it? Ghostbusters 1 isn't a perfect film. Leaves a lot to be desired. There's a lot of questions to ask, and the same questions you ask about Afterlife. Why do some people come back as ghosts as humans, and whereas other people? What was Slimer before he was killed? What was Slimer before he was a ghost? What was Slimer? Why did some people come back as people and some people come back as skeletons?
I always assumed the longer you were a ghost, the more ghosty you got.
Yeah, but so it's not perfect. It leaves a lot to be desired, doesn't it? But it's a special film, and why would the same with you in Home Alone? Why would you ruin? A good film?
The 2016 one. I mean, I just wanted the film to be better. It was painfully unfunny.
Yeah,
and it was selling itself on being funny. Now, as Luke and I just discussed in the last episode, that Ghostbusters isn't funny. It's funny because of the characters, but everybody in the film is taking it seriously, apart from Venkman, who doesn't take anything seriously.
I mean, it's very definitely a comedy, but it's played straight.
Yeah, and the situation brings the humour.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas that was all one-liners and gags and and it was silly rather than funny.
Yeah.
And that's what I didn't like. It wasn't a good film, but it wasn't. There's always going to be things, because even like with Afterlife, as we'll talk about in a minute, there's a different frame of reference and there's a different set of expectations because it's got Ghostbusters attached to it. But I did not like it because of all of it. I just didn't think it was good. Even as a standalone film, I thought, I'm not having it, really.
Yeah, Ghostbusters 1, 2 and Afterlife I think you could watch quite happily as a standalone film.
You can. Although I have a question. We'll move on to Afterlife now, I guess, and that with that. Do you think Afterlife pretends Ghostbusters 2 didn't happen?
I'm not sure about Ghost. No, they did mention Ghostbusters 2. They did mention some of the incidents, I think, in Ghostbusters 2, didn't they? I think they did. When the kids were talking about the incidents in New York in the.
All right, I missed that because I thought they were only ever referencing the first one in Goza.
Yeah.
In that instance.
I mean, where do you sit on spoilers? Because if we say too much, does it spoil it for people? Or I
suppose now's the time to say we're going to start talking about in depth.
Just before we do that,
yeah,
I think just in summary, I liked it.
I did. Yeah,
I didn't love it. I expected a bit more, but some aspects were really, really, really good. So that's my summary. If people are looking for, I wonder what they thought of it.
Yeah,
that's my summary.
I guess mine's pretty similar to yours. I had a good time. I enjoyed it. Did it reach the levels I was hoping for? No, but I don't know if it possibly could have done.
I think I loved it, but I'm, as we've already established, I'm probably a little bit easier to please than you two. We went as a family. All four of us went on Friday night to watch it, and it was the first time we've been to cinema since the before the pandemic. So it's big expectation. The kids were laughing at me because we went to McDonald's before, and I said I was nervous about going to see it, and they were laughing at me. So, and I was kind of nervous that they were going to ruin it, not the kids. But the film was going to ruin it, and it was going to be a disappointment. And
I was nervous for that as well. I really was.
So I was nervous going to see a film, which is weird, isn't it? But excited at the same time. And I think it lived up to what I wanted it to be.
Good.
I didn't expect it to be a remake of Ghostbusters, and I kind of quite liked a lot of the aspects of it. There was bits I didn't like, but I understand why they did them.
Yeah.
There was bits that I thought they could have explored a bit more, but also I quite like the fact it was only 2 hours, because they probably could have made a 3-hour movie out of that. And so I thought I quite liked the fact they stuck to 2 hours. And as a family of 4 people with an 11-year-old, a 15-year-old, and 2 mid-40-year-olds, we all come away having thoroughly enjoyed the movie. And you can't say that about many movies that we all watch. In the last year, the only other one that we probably all really loved, or two, during the pandemic, in the last year, was we all loved the Eurovision movie, the Will Ferrell movie, and we all loved Mitchell and the Machines. Yeah. And so it's quite high praise, I think, that 4 people of sort of differing genders and ages all loved a film.
Great. So that's what we thought of it, and now we are going to delve into pulling it apart, different aspects of it, talking about things that would be spoilers if you haven't seen it. So if you haven't seen it and you're going to go and watch it, then stop watching and listening now, and then come back to it when you have seen it to see whether you agree with us or not. Okay. That's fair warning. Anything that's spoiled for you after this is your own fault.
Yes.
They all die. Sorry.
So, I guess the big thing that's been controversial amongst a lot of people is the use of Ghost Egon at the end. What do you guys think of Ghost Egon?
I liked it up until the point he didn't disappear into a ghost trap with all of the other ghosts, which would have been the right place for him to go to. Because again, not wanting to be digging too much into films, why didn't he disappear into a trap? Yeah, and it's not because he had a gun pointed at it. Didn't have because all the other ghosts in the sky didn't have a gun pointed at them.
Yeah, I guess those ghosts had escaped from the underworld. I don't know. You're right. It doesn't make much sense.
And then you would have avoided the touchy-feely bit at the end, which I thought there was no need for. I kind of liked him coming and supporting and being one of the 4th ghosts, a bit like a Force ghost in Star Wars, kind of popping up, standing against them, stand with them, kind of thing. But it was then the bit with the hugs and the kisses and things at the end that I didn't like that. I thought that was the bit that pushed it too far for me.
Yeah, I asked the same question about the trap. But I didn't really care because it should have. It would have been nice if he then disappeared. It would have left. But I think the whole scene was a tribute to Harold Ramis, wasn't it?
It was.
So
The whole
that's what they're
film
trying
was
to do,
really.
trying to get him in there, trying to, as a tribute to him. It even said at the end for Harold, you know what I mean? So it was like, so I think that's what it was. It was a bit cheesy, and I say I would have done it slightly different. I would have made him disappear to the trap. It would have been poetic justice and would have kind of completed a circle because the trap was the thing that he hid and all of this, and the thing that he designed. But yeah, I didn't.
It does pose a question, that doesn't it? All those ghosts were people.
Yeah.
Or these guys essentially,
or things that munched on steel.
Yeah,
trapped them and confined
what was
them.
Muncher in a real world?
Is it immoral to trap a ghost?
Well, it depends what you do. Again, off a tangent, but I think some of them are ghosts, some of them are spectres, some of them are, some possessed things.
Yeah.
Because for someone who loved a film, I'm going to have a few negative things here right now. Because I thinking about it afterwards, I didn't understand. I did understand why they did the whole estranged father thing, but I thought they could have done a different. He didn't need to be estranged from them, did he? They could have come up with a better solution to that.
When was she born?
Yeah, I know. And who? Yeah,
I don't think the dates work out because she must have been born by the time we got to Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah,
but he left to protect it, didn't he?
Yeah, but there's no sign of him having a family in Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, well, if anybody would have thought he would have been with Jeanette.
Yeah,
no, she ends up with Lewis though, doesn't she?
Yeah,
but she was there.
She was there.
She was looking after his house, so it might have been. But then you would have said, "You're my mum."
Yeah, him sort of like leaving. I kind of get the sort of he did it to protect them, but I didn't know whether there was a better way they could have done that in terms of why he disappeared from the family.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just to protect them; it's that nobody believed him, and he thought the end of the world was coming. And I guess he was and he was a quirky character, I mean, didn't relate. Same as the granddaughter doesn't relate to people in the same way.
Yeah,
no, it's picking holes for no reason.
But he went to the epicenter, didn't he, of where it was happening and tried to stop. Well, did effectively stop it for a lot of years.
He held back the apocalypse for years, essentially.
So,
which doesn't make sense because the date was on the top.
And on the flip side, the other thing that I thought about when I was watching it, and at the time I thought, oh, why are they rehashing the Gozer thing at the time? That. But then afterwards I thought, actually, it made sense that it was that because it kind of went full circle, didn't it? And it was
because they didn't solve it the first time. So
and at the end, when the other guys turn up and sort it out, it kind of makes sense that it was. But for a little while in the film, I was thinking, I wish they hadn't rehashed the Gozer thing. I wish they'd come up with a new baddie. But it kind of, in the end, that one resolved itself, and I was quite.
It is like everything came full. So it's like the Marshmallow Man.
Yeah,
was, and I know you had an issue with the Marshmallow Man, didn't you, Ian?
I did, because in the original, it was a ghost that possessed the Stay Puft guy. So then in the supermarket, why are all these little marshmallows becoming Stay Puft guys?
I was wondering that. I was thinking maybe because it was Gozer who was the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. She inhabited the Marshmallow Man because it was choose the form of the Destructor.
Yeah.
So Gozer had been beaten as the Marshmallow Man. And maybe Gozer was just really annoyed about it. And so decided to, maybe from that point on has a thing about marshmallows.
I have my own theory that the Marshmallow Men were there for merchandising reasons.
What is that?
I think that's probably it, like Baby Yoda, the Mandalorian.
That's the only reason those were there. And it was a bit... Did you not think it was a bit Gremlins, that scene?
It was very Gremlins.
It was a bit
very Gremlins.
Because the film had a bit of Gremlins, didn't it? It was a bit Goonies. It was a bit Ghostbusters. It was a bit Stranger Things. It was all like it had quite a lot of sort of vibes to various different things.
Yeah, for me, the thing that was most impressed with was McKenna Grace's performance.
Yeah, she was superb.
I think she held it together. Without her, I think it could have fell flat. I think she played the character really well. She was, she stole every scene, I thought. The character, she played it really, really well. I thought... See, they got Finn Wolfhard in because of Stranger Things. Didn't really like him or his character, to be honest. Just lacked a bit of depth.
Yeah, and his girlfriend, they didn't really explore her character, did they? And I think she called Lucky, was she? And they didn't really explore her character very much, did they? She was a bit of I know everyone can't be a main part.
Hey, you've got to have a fourth Ghostbuster. That's underdeveloped.
Yeah, and but it kind of didn't work for me. Her character, I thought they could have done a lot more with her.
Yeah, but I thought McKenna Grace was good. And I liked Paul Rudd. I like him and everything. I just wanted more.
Yeah. Did you click early on that he was going to end up as the Keymaster?
Yes.
Yeah.
When the first went out on that date, it's like, that's the Keymaster.
I thought Paul Rudd was really good. I thought he played the part really well.
I did. I just wanted more of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they do it again, if they do another one, he's got to be fully fledged.
That's why I think they could have it could have been 3 hours long though, couldn't it? Because they could have explored loads of stuff with him, and it was. He kind of, again, going back to my two mentions of evolution in the same thing. He kind of reminded me like the teachers in Evolution, and and they were sort of, and it's the same team, isn't it? With you can understand why it's the same team who made both movies, isn't it? So you can understand why he's that sort of weird sort of stand-in substitute teacher kind of vibe.
I thought he was fun, and he played us.
Yeah.
He played the guy who remembers Ghostbusters when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Didn't you like that? I like that aspect of it where they were kind of looking at YouTube and looking at old shots of it. I like that because they kind of played up to the fact that it actually happened in real life. It's this
thing that happened in the 80s that people kind of remember, but not really. Like
there's like YouTube stuff about it. I quite like that. I quite like that kind of. And when they opened the trap as well, there's that sort of. I like to think that was sort of the kind of mischievous thing we'd do, sort of opening the trap and not thinking of the consequences.
Yeah, I thought Podcast could have been an annoying character.
Yeah,
I really liked him.
No, it could have ruined the film. Not ruined the film, but it was one of those characters where you think, like exactly what you said, he could have ruined it. But the young lad, I don't know what the young lad's name is, but he played it really well.
Yeah, I thought it was a good character. I was worried.
And yeah, definitely, I agree with you on that.
I thought the mum was good as well. I thought she played it really well. You know, you felt for her, that whole loss of, the anger against the dad and the anger of, just being dismayed that a child's becoming a bit like a dad.
Yeah.
It was a
good story, but with going back to Podcast, I liked the little things that he said and did, and he was dead excited, and it was like obviously just released a Ghost, and he's like, yes, because he's excited. But then when he's talking about when he's one viewer and it turns out that it's
and when that happened in the cinema, were the laughs coming from probably like men in their mid-40s? With us, there was sort of like you'd hear sort of the same laugh from the same men in their mid-40s all the way around the cinema.
Yeah. The same as, I want a phone call. Don't we get a phone call? Yes, you do.
Who are you going to call?
It was just like mid-40-year-old men giggling.
There was no need for that. And when we finished watching it, and I said, I loved that. And Grace, my older daughter, said, well, you would do it. It's aimed squarely at you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. People have criticised it, saying it's fan service.
Yeah.
But you know what? As a fan, it was nice to be serviced.
Yeah.
No.
I've got no problem with people doing something that I want them to do.
And you can talk about the sort of the little bits that you might not like, or the bits that you don't understand. And again, it's like anything. If you start digging into anything, you'll ruin it, won't you? Because
I mean, when they're going through the small town chasing Muncher, they clearly killed lots of people.
Yeah, and I didn't like the additions to the Ghostbusters car. They should have left it as it was, with like the gunner's seat and the
gunner's seat
and the trap on wheels on a thing. What kind of battery life did that thing have?
I kind of liked it.
I'd have had that. Go on.
I say I kind of liked it. I kind of liked it the way they developed it.
Yeah, but then they all knew instantly how to work all of the equipment. But again, it's picking holes in something for no reason.
Yeah, and the lad who failed his driving test 3 times suddenly became an expert driver.
And got pulled up off the police for having no license, and then he was driving again within minutes in his mum's car.
But I liked even the bits like going back to talk about fan service. You know when it was under the sheet, Ecto 1 was under the sheet,
and
you knew what was under there. It was like and then when he lifted it and you said, it's just like I loved all that bit. I loved the cameos, even though they were a bit cheesy. I liked them.
Did anybody stay and watch the post-credit stuff because we missed it?
I saw one of them. I saw one of them at the second.
We'd left and I didn't realise. because I'd read that Sigourney Weaver was in it, and then I thought, well, she's not even in it.
A guy stood up in our cinema.
He was doing the cards.
As it was ending, and he went, for anyone who's interested, there's 2 sequences of the credits, one in the middle, one at the end. For anyone who's, I thought when he stood up and said, for anyone interested, is this guy going to try and sell drugs or something? He was just giving us. So we stayed for the first one, but not the second.
We missed both of them. I didn't realise they were going to be. We kind of got carried away in the people leaving the cinema kind of thing, and it
was kind of cute, the one with Sigourney Weaver and Bill Murray.
Yeah,
it was. He was trying to guess the cards, and she was giving him electric shocks. And
I read about it afterwards because I knew everyone was good. I'd read about it before we went, and I knew they were all going to be in it. And she was the one who was absent through the film. Mm-hmm. So afterwards, I googled why she wasn't in it, because I knew Rick Moranis wasn't going to be in it because he didn't really. I think he's pretty much stepped down from acting anyway, hasn't he? But he kind of said, I don't think he holds it in the same regard as all the others. It's just a film that he was in 30 years ago, and he's not really that bothered. But so why would he bother to go and reprise his role? Which fair enough, he doesn't want to do it. But I was thinking, why was Sigourney Weaver in the whole movie? And then I was thinking, did I miss something? Did I drop off? But then I googled it, and it turns out it was and the other one was Winston driving the car away, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's not to set up some kind of Winston sequel.
Well, I don't know. He said to her, didn't he? He said, we'll get you all fixed up. What have they done to you?
Yeah.
And then it shows you him driving away. So I think it means there might be another one.
I think if they're going to do another one, the original guys would be like the CEOs, you know.
They should be the mentors or something, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
But then the like McKenna Grace, she's only supposed to be about 13, isn't she? So she shouldn't really be working.
No, she shouldn't be working a full-time job.
No. In the ghost busting industry, but they could do more, couldn't they?
Yeah, I like the way they developed the whole story. The whole Gozer thing, you know, like, well, we knew that building was built out of, you know, some strange material. So this is where it came from, and not only that, there's a temple to Gozer in there, and I liked that.
No, I kind of like that.
It dragged a bit in the beginning because you knew where it was going.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, but they had to build them. They had to sort of introduce those characters a little bit, didn't they?
Yeah,
because you had to sort of get why. Because the original Ghostbusters, the characters were there instantly, and they kind of had their own character from the beginning. You could pick that out fairly quickly. But then these new characters, they had to sort of like line up who they were. Really, she was the geeky one, wasn't she? And the other one.
I was really, really missing in it though. A good musical montage.
Did it have a theme tune? Did it have a theme tune?
Not really, no. But just a montage. You know, like when in the other one, there's that when the ghosts are all released, you get this montage with that weird song over the top of it, and you just get a big sequence of the ghosts creating havoc right throughout New York. And in this one, you got 2.
Yeah. And
it was just like they could have had some fun with that. You could have had the whole town going crazy, and you just missed that.
I think one thing that I was thinking about looking back at the old one, looking at this one, and I know they tied them in, but the CGI didn't seem that much better than what we had 30 odd years ago, did it? So it's probably a testament to what they did on the original.
No, good effects.
It's a testament to the original one that they didn't have to sort of improve them that much. Obviously, if they'd improved them too much, it would have looked odd. But the characters can't like the two dogs.
The terror dogs. They never call them terror dogs, but
whatever they are. But they look quite similar. They look the same, didn't they, as they did years and years ago? They didn't try and enhance them or make them anything different.
Well, it felt like the beginning of something for me because I think they could, a bit like when they did the Star Wars sequels, that they used a lot of the same ideas, but it could develop well. These could become Ghostbusters, like while she's at school or whatever, and they still did. The only thing is they'd probably have to base it in the same place because a couple of the characters are based there, but and the setting is a bit limiting because in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, you really want to be back in New York, don't you?
Yeah, or a big city.
Yeah.
And that's where Winston was driving the car to at the end, so maybe.
Yeah, maybe they will line it up for a thing. But has it been popular? It's
doing okay at the box office, I think. I think critics have been pretty dismissive of it, but I think audience have been okay.
Critics are dismissive of most things, aren't they?
No, there's that.
Some people
7.8 on IMDb.
That's not bad, is it?
No. Anything over 7 is good.
If you look on Rotten Tomatoes, it's usually the audience one's a lot higher than the critics one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
I had a good time. I mean, does it compare to the original? No, but I had a good time.
But some of it's always going to be, if we watch this first and then in 10 years we watch the original.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you've just got a loyalty to it. Or
there's some people out there who prefer the Star Wars episode 1, 2, and 3.
No, there's some people who.
No, but I mean, kids who watched them when they were kids.
I thought you were talking about me.
No, I mean, people who they were the first Star Wars films they saw. Actually, they prefer them because that's the one they've got the emotional connection with.
But also a bit like me with the Star Wars, taking all 9 and just enjoying the journey of the whole 9. Some are better made than others. I'd put Ghostbusters like that, the 1, 2, and 3. Well, 1, 2, and this one. That it's just part of the overall story arc, and obviously some bits are better than others, and I just take it for what it is. Listen, I mentioned enjoying Star Trek films. If you start comparing an original William Shatner Star Trek film against some of the later Patrick Stewart ones, or even the new ones that have just been released, there's no comparison. But the story arc, I just read it all as one thing, and I don't like. Some films I enjoy more than others, but it's because I enjoy the story. I enjoy the sort of the world, the Ghostbusters world, or the Star Trek world, or the Star Wars world, and I kind of just enjoy the bits for what they are.
Yeah, I think if they do it again, another one, they have to rethink about the ghosts. Do you know what's the new threat? It can't.
You can't do Gozer again. You can't do Gozer again, not now.
And you can't do the River of Slime.
Because strictly speaking, Gozer is actually trapped now.
Yeah.
And you can't do the River of Slime again, or what was it? Vigo. The Carpathian.
Yeah. Wasn't he out the Left Behind books? You couldn't do the thing. They'd have to do something different. But again, Ghostbusters, they won't. But it kind of, I was thinking before, but when we mentioned this before, again going back to Cobra Kai, how they could do some of the 80s films as like mini-series, and that would have kind of lend itself to a bit of a mini-series, wouldn't it? Where there could be shorter episodes where they deal with a different ghost at a time. I think anyway, but it's never going to happen. But because I think that for other films that are ripe for this kind of remake, they're all in that same thing, aren't they? You could sort of a Goonies one. We were talking about when we were on the way back from the cinema how this one worked. I could now, because that film felt a bit Goonie-ish to me.
You're for a Goonies sequel now.
Yeah, but imagine, and I even come up with a thing that the Goonies, or some of the Goonies, the two brothers go back to where they were originally from, maybe to bury the mum or something. Then they take their families with them, and their kids go off on the adventure, rather than rehashing it that the people who were the Goonies actually do it. What I liked about this was they didn't. I don't think I would have enjoyed this if it was the three Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters.
No, they were in the right amount, I think.
Yeah,
just enough to make you go, "Oh, bless them."
Yeah, and they talked about how old they were.
Yeah.
So it was like, we're past this now. This is not us. I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Excellent. Well, I think we've talked for. We've gone a good long while about Ghostbusters Afterlife, but we'd love to know what you thought of it. Did you like it? How do you think it compares to the original? Were the bits that wound you up a bit, or do you think it was? Do you agree with the critics that it was too much fan service, or are you a fan who liked being serviced? Let us know. Get in touch on Twitter. Get in touch on Facebook.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Ian. It's been good to have you finally on with us.
It has.
Thank you.
It has. And despite your wrong opinions about black and white films,
I still feel like a bit of a fraud talking about films with you two, because you take it a lot more seriously than I do.
I don't know. I think you've held your own there and give your thoughts
and
quite coherently.
You haven't even abused my Sandra Bullock addiction, or.
Oh, we'll keep that for next time.
Well, Luke's done it on about 8 episodes already. So
I've been mentioned more than you two have been mentioned in some past episodes.
Dear.
Right, I'm off to watch The Greatest Showman. Reboot.
Dismayed. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Hope that you've enjoyed our discussion about Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yeah, and if you want to come on and share some of your thoughts, whether you believe that you're not a film snob or whatever, then let us know, and we'd love to have you on to just talk about film.
Yeah, and we'll see you again next time.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.